Hello and welcome to TSB Talk Sport and Business. I'm Neil Oja and it's time for the Fans Forum as we welcome Pranav Prasanna, who has been absconding from the studios because he was in Abu Dhabi. Pranav, what were you doing in Abu Dhabi?
Well, Neil, thank you so much for that welcome. I have missed this edition of the Fans Forum. I've missed this opportunity to speak and connect with the fans. And being in Abu Dhabi gave me an opportunity at the ground level to be part of this unique event, the UFC 294 that's come back to the capital. It's one of the biggest sporting events, MMA. Who would want to mix this explosive action that happens? It's one of those rare events where right before the big fight, you've got training sessions that happen. We call it open camps at the Yas Mall that happen. You have presses that happen, which allow fans to interact with the fighters as well. So, overall, it is an experience that you do not want to miss. And this is where I was, which is probably why you didn't see me for a good 3 or 4 days.
Now tell me, who was with you?
I went by myself.
No, this is wrong, Pranav. You shouldn't be. See, you know what? I mean, I'm not telling you that you take a date over there, but you need to take people with you so that they get introduced to UFC and try and understand what the sport is all about and why it is so amazing. You know, now that you're back, we'll make you talk about the atmosphere, वहाँ पर माहौल क्या था, किस तरह के लोग आए थे, what was the crowd, over there at the UFC 294?
Absolutely, Neil, as much as you want to pull my leg about my, social life. But as far as dates go, this was a date with destiny for a lot of big fighters fighting in this card in Abu Dhabi. You look at the likes of an Islam Makhachev, one of the best fighters in the industry right now, or an Australian Greek athlete, Alexander Volkanovski. He's an amazing, explosive striker, and a rematch between these two is what was on the cards. The atmosphere aspect of it, packed, sold out arena, and as loud as you can expect. And I loved it. An overall thrilling experience. It was an unforgettable night, and fans really want to stick around till whether it's 1 a.m., 12 a.m., past the midnight hours. You will see the arena in full capacity.
This is incredible. I mean, this is one of those sports that has taken not just the capital, but the whole of UAE by a storm. And, you're talking about Volkanovski, and he does like a challenge, doesn't he?
Right.
Now, whatever the result, irrespective of that, does he now cement his legacy as a UFC great, irrespective of what has happened at the UFC 294?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because Volkanovski took up this fight in UFC 294. Mind you, it was the Brazilian martial artist Charles Oliveira that was supposed to take on Islam Makhachev in this card. But of course, an injury in the final few days is what led to the change of contestants. Now, I had a chance to catch up with Alexander Volkanovski recently, and here's what he had to say about what fighting means to him, what legacy that he plans to leave behind, and of course that incredible team that he has with him. Mind you, we have a colleague, Lachlan Kitchen, who is from Australia, and he'll tell you how difficult it is to be away from home. Now imagine a professional athlete that has to do fight out.
Kitch is enjoying being away from home. But
well, yes, I mean, he's no Alexander Volkanovski. He does not have a belt to his name. But yes, the Volk, the big fighter from Australia, here's what he had to say about his legacy.
The support's been incredible forever, you know what I mean? In Australia, especially down in the Gong. Everyone's always been great. But I mean, this whole situation on 12 days' notice shows you the team and the support I have. I've been pretty vocal about it, like how everyone literally just changed all their plans, literally hours after I got the phone call to be there to help me in camp, or to be overseas, get me ready in them few days that we had, and not only that, to be over here at Abu Dhabi, spending a whole 10 days or whatever it's going to end up being away from their family. Just to help me out, when you got physios, strength and conditioning coaches, you got dietitians, and then obviously your training partners and coaches, and everyone literally just dropped what they were doing. And not only did they do that, have been nothing but positive, and it's been a joy. It really has. And I think I'm glad they were like that. There's no stress in the camp, which is going to make this more exciting and make me more dangerous. So I've got a great team around me, very thankful.
A couple of the Australian athletes across different sport, whether it's Nick Kyrgios in tennis or a couple of the cricketers that come out here, they talk about the distance, being away from home, and how that mentally sort of affects them, maybe not being able to see the family or whatever. Is that something that you feel as well?
No, not really. Like, I mean, I've got a job to do. This is a part of the process. Like I said earlier, no matter what situation I'm accepting, I'm going to make it work. I try not to, I hate being away from my family, but if I have to for a fight, that's it. It's done. I have to accept it, move on, and focus what's at hand. I'm able to do that. You know what I mean? Even when it comes to injuries and things like that, sometimes you get an injury and you start stressing. Oh no! Like, what if something's bad? And then you hear it is broken. Yeah, you have broke your big toe. It's like, all right, accept it. Boom, move on. But now I've got a clear path. I was stressing more before I knew it was broken. Then I find out, the worst possible news. And now it's so much easier for me to accept and be like, okay, no more pressure. That's happened. All right, now we've got to do this. I can accept these things and move forward. I think that's just a part of my mentality, my mindset, and that really helps me be able to do what I do, especially in this crazy roller coaster of a sport, and MMA and UFC and my crazy, wild career as well, and doing crazy shit like this, lucky I have that type of mindset.
This passion that you bring, this energy, do you sort of credit that to your upbringing as well and the struggles when you went through in your childhood? Is that something you credit as well?
I mean, there's a experience through everything, man. Like, experiences through everything in life, right? Like, get you ready. Like, I wouldn't be the man I am without this career, without how I was brought up, and all them life experiences made me who I am. So and I'm very proud of that, and I wouldn't change a thing. You know what I mean? That's one thing that a lot of people do ask me is what's one of your greatest accomplishments? And I'm have my fair share of accomplishments, but one of my greatest accomplishments is the fact that I was able to be myself through the whole process. And I'm very, very proud of that. Very proud of my experience, my upbringing, how I was raised, and I hope I set a good example for a lot of people out there.
So apart from the big Australian, who else was there, and what were the biggest fights that one would have probably expected to watch over there?
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about the fight card itself and the fight night. But look, in terms of watching out for the fighters that were in and around Abu Dhabi, Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian nightmare, he's one of those names that, regardless whether he's coming off 2 losses or whatever in the back, he is someone that will always catch headlines. And when you take on someone, a Dagestani in the likes of a Khamzat Chimaev, oh my God, this is explosions from both ends that are just waiting to happen in that octagon. And that's exactly what happened in the night as well. A couple of other fighters that were also in town was Aljamain Sterling. He was here last year at the UFC. He put his belt on the line, and he was able to defend it in Abu Dhabi last time around, but he did go on to lose it against Sean O'Malley later this year. Another fighter, one of my favorites, was the American Justin Gaethje, who indeed I had a chance to catch up with as well at the Etihad Arena. So good presence of UFC fighters, whether they're on the card or whether they're away.
You spoke about all of these fights and all of these amazing martial artists coming in. Now, what were the results? Who won? Who took home the title? Who took home the belt?
Right, let's start with the co-main event, right? This is Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman, the explosions that I was talking about. You have Khamzat Chimaev, one of the best wrestlers, and from the get-go, you could see that he wanted to drag his opponent down, almost holding by the cage, and that's where you get your points as well. His wrestling ability throughout the fight with Khamzat Chimaev, that, for me, is what stood out. But unlike many people, what Kamaru Usman was able to do was bounce back, land a few strikes on Khamzat Chimaev, and maybe not a lot of people would have expected that. But when you look at the end result of 29-27, 29-27, 28-28, going in the favor of Khamzat Chimaev, a lot of people did raise eyebrows, and I was on social media as well thinking, well, maybe this should have been a more tougher sort of fight to grade. Because a lot of people said, well, what happens when Kamaru Usman, when he was able to defend some of those takedowns, when he did land a few shots on Khamzat, where the points have gone over there. So there were a few questions about that, but no doubt it was Khamzat who looked tougher, grittier, more athletic, and it comes with his physique as well. Kamaru, he didn't have that much of a time in camp as well. Mind you, he did take on the fight at the back of Paula Costa being injured as well. So a bit of a replacement over there, but at the same time, Kamaru, he did show a bit of his agility. So that's a good aspect for his fighting ability as well. So looking forward to who his next opponent would be, but it's not coming anytime soon. For Khamzat, however, with the win, I think he will contest for the belt against the current champion of the UFC middleweight division. That's Sean Strickland. I think that fight is soon on the cards.
So this was the big explosion that you were talking about. And what about the main event?
Well, you've already got through the big explosions of a co-main event. Now let's come to the main event, the fight, the rematch from all the way in Perth. Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev. Now, mind you, Volkanovski is already a featherweight division champion. He already holds a UFC title. For him to win against Islam Makhachev would mean that he gets the UFC lightweight belt as well. That would make him a dual champion. That's history in the making for this fighter. He wasn't able to manage that in Perth. It came down to unanimous decision with Islam retaining the title. And 10 days to go before the fight, Volkanovski takes this challenge that is going to happen in Abu Dhabi. Like we said, the rematch of Charles Oliveira didn't happen, but the Volk match was set to happen. A lot of hype, a lot of expectations around it. But in all honesty, I think this match slightly under-delivered. But make no mistake, Islam Makhachev, he took on the best wrestler in Charles Oliveira and submitted him. He took the best striker in Alexander Volkanovski and knocked him out in UFC 294. A quick kick to the head, to the temple of Alexander Volkanovski's head in round 1 within a minute and a half into the fight, and then was able to finish him off. The referee made no hesitation with this, and an early win for Islam Makhachev. Now, it's the first time for Alexander Volkanovski in his career to have a stoppage loss in a decade. Now look at that. That's staggering results for a fighter of his caliber. But Makhachev, easy as it gets. You know, he was good on his feet, even with the clinching and landing a few significant strikes. There's a absolute sort of mismatch when you are in front of the octagon and seeing someone like an Islam versus Volkanovski in terms of the height and the reach. But again, those are no excuses for good fighters. But at the end of the night, Islam Makhachev retaining his title, defending it successfully, and remaining the world's UFC lightweight champion.
Definitely looks like you had a lot of fun, going out to Abu Dhabi, watching UFC. Now tell me, when are you applying for your leaves again?
No, I mean, very soon.
No, I'm not asking for your holidays where you'll go with your mom and dad and travel India or other places. I'm basically looking for your next trip to Abu Dhabi, where you'll probably be seeing UFC again. I mean, as I'm sure that Abu Dhabi would be looking forward to hosting this again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, UFC is definitely coming back. For the fans that are listening to this, UFC is back very, very soon next year. In fact, back for a long time. After Dana White, the president of UFC, confirmed along with the Department of Cultural Tourism in Abu Dhabi that UFC has extended its partnership till 2028. So that's a good news for the MMA UFC fans within the region and not just the UAE.
So this means that you'll be applying for holidays at least till 2028.
I will be.
Okay.
I will be. So come the date of a UFC fight, you will definitely see that my name is on top of the board saying, well, he's off for the next 3 or 4 days.
Can the boss please cancel his holidays? All right. See, Pranav going out and getting all of this information, getting all of this content for us is amazing, because see, the moment he steps out of the studios is when he actually starts working. So it's good for us and good for you as you listen to Talk Sport and Business. Thank you so much, Pranav.
Thank you so much.